Welcome to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast, your weekly update of business news and issues from around Cumbria. Find out how we support new business and help existing businesses to grow and flourish at cumbriachamber.co.uk. Now here's the Chamber's Business Engagement Manager, Julian Whittle, with this week's episode.
Hello, I'm here with Kirsty Mahoney, an employment advisor with the charity Imagine Independence, which helps people with disabilities find work. We're going to talk about the benefits of employing disabled staff and how Imagine Independence can help businesses find disabled employees to meet their needs. Kirsty, Imagine Independence has been operating, I think, for more than 40 years.
Yep, that's right.
Tell me about the charity. What is its mission?
Basically, it's all about enabling and supporting people to live full and independent lives, regardless of disability. We deal with people with mental and physical health issues. We believe that helping people to cope independently is the best way to build self-esteem and obviously enable them to live a more fulfilled and productive lives. We primarily work in the northwest of England, and we do have offices in London as well. We provide personalised support to about 2,000 people a year struggling with a wide range of issues, from health issues, drug and alcohol, as well as ex-offenders. So we support these people with developing their personal skills, housing, employment, community and job opportunities. Also, we do a support service which is focused more on healthy living and practical solutions to cope with life in general. So ultimately, just to help people live a more full and independent life.
Okay, now you're based in Carlisle, but I presume you cover the whole county, do you? What is your role specifically? I'm
an employment advisor, and I work primarily in Carlisle and Eden. And what I do is people are referred to me for employment support through the Care Act assessment. And it's usually in a block of sort of 2 or 3 hours a week, and they come to me for if they want to pursue. It can be a number of different things. It can be voluntary work. It can be getting back into education. It can be just looking for a little part-time job. And my role is to sort of liaise with employers, right. Help build their self-esteem, interview techniques. CV writing. A lot of people don't have a CV.
Yeah.
And all those sort of things to prepare them for getting back to work.
So tell me about the people you support then. What source of disabilities do they have?
Well, primarily, the contract was commissioned for people with mental health issues, but we found that actually, and which is quite good, that we've opened up the service to people with learning disabilities as well and physical disabilities. For example, there's a gentleman I work with in Penrith who is a electric wheelchair user, and he's currently we've got him a volunteering role, and he's really enjoying it.
So, are we talking about people who are returning to work, perhaps after a period of ill health? Or some of your clients maybe have never worked, have they?
It's a bit of both, really. I mean, a lot of there are people who we support that are actually in work and have been in work for a long time. There are people that have never worked. There are people who have been very ill and returning to work. But basically, the service is open to anyone 16 plus.
Right.
As long as they've got a Care Act assessment and they can be referred from a social worker, then the service is available.
You can help them. Yeah. And from an employer's perspective, what would you say? What are the benefits in taking on one of your clients?
I think, to be honest, there is proof that work-based activity can really build self-esteem, and it can help people on the road to recovery. I think people with disabilities can provide loyalty. They can be very loyal to employers.
Yeah, they're less likely to move on to another job next week, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just having that sort of social and moral responsibility. I mean, I think as an employer, it's a sort of feel good thing if you know that you're just doing something good for the community, I suppose.
But I suppose, if you look beyond the disability, it's quite likely that many of these disabled clients will actually have really valuable talents.
That's right, absolutely. I mean, I've got one gentleman that I work with who is on the autistic spectrum, and he is extremely intelligent and capable of doing a lot more than what he's doing. He is in work at the moment, but he really wants to work with computers, and it's just getting those opportunities for him, really.
Now, obviously your clients are looking for work, but to what extent are they ready for the workplace? I mean, you mentioned one or two things like, CV writing, but how do you help them to prepare for the world of work?
It varies really. Quite often, the client base that we've got it can be anything. I mean, there are people who are very ready for work, and some who just, really, really need that sort of first step before they actually even think about work. And so we also provide another service which is called the Building Better Opportunities service. So it's more about getting people back into community sort of life and socialising. And I mean, it might be people who haven't been out for 2 or 3 years, and I think so. Really, that's their starting point. But I mean, you can when we get the referrals, until you meet the person, you don't know what sort of stage they're going to be at, and you just do what you can to help them.
And are you looking to find permanent jobs for your clients, or part-time work, or even unpaid work experience as a stepping stone, I suppose, to a permanent role? Yeah,
I mean, it can be all of those things, really. I mean, there are people. There's a young lady I'm working with who she initially wanted to get a paid job, but was worried about how it might affect her benefits. But she's now doing 3 days voluntary work, which she's absolutely loving. And again, there's another man that we work with who he's been employed for 14 years, but he also does a voluntary placement as well. So I mean, it can be anything really.
And how do you match individuals to job opportunities? Because I suppose it's important to get the right fit, isn't it, for the individual and for the business who's employing them?
Yeah. We use a model called the IPS model. So that stands for individual placement and support. So it's about looking at what the client has done, about what they see for their future. And obviously looking at things like, well, we need to look at certain businesses that might be able to support that. So we don't shoehorn people into employment or into jobs. It's all about liaising with the business, and more often than not, I think that it's important to do like a work trial first.
Oh, right, yeah, that's a good idea.
Just sort of dip your toes in, really, and see if you like it.
And does your role end when you find people a job, or does the support you provide continue once they're in the workplace?
It can continue, yeah. I mean, it all depends on the client needs, really. I mean, there's people that I've worked with for over a year now, who still, even though they're pretty happy in what they're doing, they still want to meet sort of on a regular basis just to discuss different things. There's someone that has had some issues at work, and I've met with his boss and him. So it's sort of that support role still carries on.
Good.
Yeah.
And how can employers make their workplaces more welcoming to disabled staff? And I'm thinking here both of physical changes, but also maybe working practices that can make the workplace more disabled friendly.
Well, this is something we come across a lot. We've had problems where we've wanted to get people into work, and some employers are like, well, they don't know the health and safety, and I mean, an example to make it easier for people with disabilities would be just to have, instead of it being written, maybe have it just as like a visual thing rather than lots of writing. Like, say if it was a corrosive material, just have a
symbol,
change the signage. And I think people need to be a bit more open-minded, really, because there are these people that we work with are capable of doing of working and very much want to work. I've got someone that I work with who is doing more flexible hours, so because they suffer with an illness that makes them quite tired. So there's been an agreement with the employer that if they're affected by that, they'll just do a shorter shift.
I see. Yeah. So it's really all about flexibility.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people or employers might think, well, it's all about physical adaptations, but very often it's actually being flexible
and being supportive, really.
Now, I'm guessing that you're pushing at an open door in Cumbria because of the difficulties that we know from the Chamber. Many businesses here have recruiting staff, because our working age population is shrinking, and it's also not always realised that Eden and South Lakeland actually have the lowest unemployment rates in the UK. So it is difficult for employers to find staff, and they are having to be more creative, if you like. Do you find that employers are receptive to your message?
They are. I mean, I think it's a case of us doing a bit more footwork as well, and just making employers aware of the service we provide, and that there are a lot of people who would work and be extremely loyal. We've had a few leads this week in Carlisle, which is promising. But more often than not, I mean, with the big companies like your Asda and places like that, we've spoken to them about the possibility of arranging work trials, and we just get the comeback is, well, they've got to apply with the proper process, and and quite often that's a stumbling block in itself. I mean, obviously we help them with applications, but then it can be quite daunting going for an interview, and you're not really knowing what to expect. I think it's just about, I mean, and it's it would be beneficial to employers to change their outlook and maybe give it a try, because obviously they're going to need people to work.
Can you give examples then of some of the successes that you've had in placing people with businesses in Cumbria?
Well, as I mentioned before, there's a young man that we work with who he's worked for a big supermarket chain for 14 years. He's been there 14 years now. He's got placement at the museum, the military museum. So he's doing something data input, I think he's doing there, which is ideally what he would love to be doing. There's a young man I started working with last year who, due to his convictions, he couldn't get a place at college. And what we did was we looked at placing him at Houghton, at Susan's farm at Houghton.
Oh yes, Susan at Greenby's, yeah.
So he goes there once or twice a week, I think, and she's now putting him through his land-based studies course, affiliated with Newton Riggs. So that was pretty exciting. He was really pleased about that.
Now, if employers listening to this podcast, are interested, their appetite's being whetted, as it were, how can they find out more about Imagine Independence, and how can they get in touch?
Well, we've got our website, which is www.imagineindependence.org.uk/Cumbria.
Yeah.
Or you can come direct to me. My email is kmahoney with an E at imagineindependence.org.uk.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kirsty.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Cumbria Chamber of Commerce podcast. You can find out more about how we're supporting Cumbrian businesses at cumbriachamber.co.uk and cumbriagrowthhub.co.uk. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and we'll have another episode for you next week.